Once again, we are reviewing a new movie, and this time it is Bill and Ted Face the Music, directed by Dean Parisot and starring Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and Kristen Schaal. Continuing nearly 30 years after the events of Bill and Ted's Bogus journey, the film finds Bill and Ted as middle-aged dads, who still have yet to create the song that they were told they were destined to write and that would unite the world. But as events unfold, they realize how imperative it is that they fulfill their destiny. Unlike a lot of huge Bill and Ted fans, I didn't exactly grow up watching the Bill and Ted films. I first saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure long after it came out, in part because it was made before I was born, when I was about 10 years old. And I remember liking the film. And oddly enough, this is going to sound really weird, but I appreciate it more as an adult watching it than I did when I was a kid. And it's mostly because, as a lover of film, it's very entertaining, and it knows exactly what it is. I didn't see the sequel to the movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, until long after I first saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I actually first watched it this year. And one thing I can definitely say about that film is that it is not a retread of the first movie in any way, shape, or form. It could have easily done that, but instead, what ends up happening in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is, instead of a bunch of time travel stuff and instead of bringing back historical figures, basically evil versions of Bill and Ted kill them in the first 20 minutes and they end up in hell, and they end up making friends with death and coming back to life and have to defeat their evil cohorts. But, I mean, it's still a really fun watch, and a lot of people don't like the movie because it takes a little bit of a darker tone, but I ended up enjoying it a little bit more than the first film. And it's not just because it did something different and tried to be different from the first movie. It's that it did something different and tried to be different from the first movie, and it actually worked. And then, nearly 30 years in the future, comes the present day when we have the new sequel, Bill and Ted Face the Music. And obviously, I was wondering what the heck they were going to do with this. Would it somehow be a retread of the previous films? Would it try and do something original? And most importantly, would it be any good? We're living in an age of countless sequels and remakes to movies that really weren't made that long ago. And to see that now being done for a movie that was made almost 30 years ago, for lack of better words, that's kind of a giant red flag. With that being said, I had absolutely nothing to fear with Bill and Ted Face the Music. Not only is it a good sequel and a standalone film, but it's a really fun time. Not only was it fun seeing Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves play the roles of Bill and Ted again, especially now as middle-aged dads, but they still have their characters down, and they still have amazing chemistry. They work so well together, and it's in large part what makes the movie work so well. Especially considering, and I'm not going to try and give away any spoilers here, but there are scenes where they have to play radically different versions of themselves, and they excel in doing every single version. And this kind of touches on something else that I really liked about the movie, which is that even though there is a little bit of nostalgia and throwback to the previous films, the movie doesn't rely solely on that to make it good. There are references to the other films, and there are callbacks to characters from the previous films. Not only Bill and Ted, obviously, but also the character of Death. Again, played excellently by William Sadler, just like he did in Bogus Journey. But the difference between a lot of movies that try to do that and this one is that in this one, they're not relying solely on that throwback effect. They're not relying solely on people going, oh, hey, I remember that. That's really cool that they remembered to put that in there. What are they going to do with it? Oh, they're doing nothing with it. Shoot. Well, it was still fun. The movie doesn't rely solely on those references. It has its own thing, it has its own story, and it just uses a little bit of sprinkles of those references throughout to help propel its own story along. And as for new characters added into the mix, there are a lot of really fun characters added into the mix, such as the daughters of Bill and Ted, played excellently by Samara Weaving and Brigette Lundy-Paine. They could have been very easily relegated to background characters who are just there and don't add anything to the story. But they're given a lot to do, and they're not annoying in the slightest. They're actually pretty fun characters. And there's also another character, not going to give away any spoilers, but I'll just say he's a robot and his name is Dennis. he adds a lot of laughs to the movie. Again, could have been very annoying, but he's not. And while it's not the greatest thing ever, this movie does the one thing it sets out to do, which is entertain and make you laugh. There are a lot of really funny scenes throughout this movie, and some kind of fun cameos that also could have been just, ah, hey, look who that is, but it works. One of the biggest reasons why I think this movie works so well is one of the biggest reasons why I think the previous two worked so well, and that is the conviction that the people involved give to making this thing as entertaining as possible. Not saying anything bad about these movies at all by saying this, but it's Bill and Ted. You could very easily take these stories and not do anything with them. The Bill and Ted films are about two dumb rocker guys who are told that they have to save the world by writing a song and end up in these weird adventures involving time travel. I don't think I'm going that far out on a limb to say that you have to have a massive suspension of disbelief in order to follow this movie. It would be so easy to write this off as just another sequel to a dumb movie and look down on the material. But the amazing thing is, none of the people involved seem to do that. It would be so easy for them to not give a shit, but you can tell that they are trying to give the audience the time of their lives, and they want to give you some entertainment. And that's exactly what they do because they care. Now, I know I'm giving a lot of praises to the film. It is not perfect. I mean, it is a Bill and Ted movie, and again, you have to have that suspension of disbelief to enjoy it. But even if you just look at it as that kind of movie, there are some flaws with it. For instance, while the effects in general are usually pretty good, there are some that don't work. For example, there are a couple of instances in the phone booth where it just looks completely fake. And there are some scenes where you can tell where the green screen is. And there are some scenes that feel really, really rushed, such as a scene where Ted is reconciling with his dad. And not gonna lie, and not gonna spoil it, but the finale, it is a bit rushed. And there is something else that I feel is kind of a negative toward the film, but at this point I feel like I'm just nitpicking. The way that Bill and Ted fulfill their destiny at the end of the film, again, not gonna give it away. And while I have to admit it was a pretty sweet idea, I saw it coming from a mile away. And I have a feeling that that will be the same for pretty much anyone who watches the film. But again, it was a pretty sweet way of doing it, and I gotta give them credit for that. But again, it would have been so easy to make this just another sequel that no one cares about and where nobody cared about the material. But basically, because the people involved don't look down on the material and don't look down on their fans or the audience, or even people who are completely new to the material, they make it really entertaining. And for those reasons, I have to recommend watching this one. So if you're watching this review at the time I'm recording it, or at the time I release it, or even just a little while after then, you know that this movie is relatively expensive to rent because it's basically an early access deal. It only got put in a few theaters, I think, and theaters are at very limited capacity right now because, 2020 and the pandemic. And they don't want a bunch of people going to the theater right now. And they still want to make money off this movie as much as they can. Which, does it suck that you have to pay that much to rent a movie? Yeah, but to be honest, these guys gave it their all. They really showed that they were trying to make a quality product for the people who are not only their fans, but even newcomers who aren't very well attuned to the Bill and Ted series. Again, I have to reiterate, it would have been so easy to make a shitty movie based off of this, but they made it not shitty. And you can tell they put all of their time, effort, and heart into making this thing into a good movie. And for that reason, if you are interested in watching it, I would recommend going ahead and paying the slightly hefty price to rent this movie now, as long as you have the means to do so. I'm not saying that if you only have $20 in your account right now, or even just $100 in your account right now, or if you're being severely undercut by the pandemic, but if you have the means to watch it, go ahead and watch this film. And with all of that being said, that's it for this review. If you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It really helps out with the algorithm and helping other people find this video. And if you're new here or just haven't already and you like what you see and want to see more content from me, go ahead and click that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. While I don't exactly have a set schedule, and admittedly I don't make videos on a very regular basis, I do what I can to make film-related movies film-related movies, film-related videos for you guys to watch. And if you're already subscribed but really want to be notified when I make a new video, go ahead and hit that bell icon so you can actually be notified when I make a new video, instead of just some of the time. And with that, have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.